There is one thing that remains chillingly consistent across the most extreme paranormal investigations in America. Cursed, abandoned places never truly sleep. They aren't just piles of dust and decaying concrete. They hold a dark, trapped energy that waits centuries for its next victim. The location you see on your screen right now is not just another rundown ruin. According to redacted files and deep web archives, a forbidden and highly volatile ritual took place within these walls decades ago. The people who lived in this grand estate vanished in a single night, leaving absolutely no trace behind. They fled in such a massive panic that they left their everyday belongings, their memories, and an overwhelming sense of dread behind. The moment you look at the main entrance, a sickening heaviness hits your chest. There is a decay in the air that defies logic. The deep cracks in these walls are practically screaming that whatever happened here was not from our world. Paranormal experts always warn that stepping inside these boundaries is an open invitation to something malicious. But today, we are standing right in the dead center of it, ready to uncover the darkest secrets buried in this shadow. Look closely at these shattered doors and boarded-up windows. When a structure sits entirely isolated from humanity for decades, the doors and windows don't just rattle from the wind. Top international ghost hunters believe these thresholds actually transform into portals, bridging our reality with the spirit world. The severe rot in the wood and the heavy rust on the iron hinges tell a terrifying story. Someone didn't lock these from the outside. They desperately tried to seal them from the inside. Something was thrashing violently within these rooms, and the inhabitants used their final breaths to make sure that malevolent force could never escape. But did that entity truly stay contained? Or is it still peering out through the jagged, broken glass of these windows today? As you walk deeper into these hollow hallways, even the sound of rotting wood snapping beneath your feet creates the agonizing illusion of footsteps. It feels like someone is matching your pace, step for step, right behind your back. The temperature in here is plummeting rapidly, and that is the very first undeniable sign that we are definitely not alone. But amidst this suffocating silence, what is the most disturbing detail? When a place completely dies, the only things that survive are the creatures that thrive in absolute darkness. Fix your eyes on that corner of the wall. Look at that bizarre, creeping entity moving across the stone. At first glance, your mind tries to rationalize it as just a common reptile or a lizard. But ancient paranormal history and dark folklore tell a much more sinister truth. Extremely powerful demonic forces often manifest in these exact shapes to trick human perception and manipulate our minds. They are known as mimicking entities. Notice how it stares directly into the camera lens, completely unfazed. It is entirely aware of our presence, and it is tracking our every single move. There is an unsettling, almost human-like intelligence gleaming in its eyes. Is this actually just an innocent creature? Or is it a guardian spirit left behind to watch over these cursed ruins? The faint, scratching sound of its movement cuts right through the silence, vibrating straight into your subconscious. Staying here any longer might be the biggest mistake we've ever made. Tilt the camera upward and look at the wreckage of the collapsed roof. An open sky used to look down on this room. But today, there is only a deep, terrifying, pitch-black void. When you stare into those broken, gaping rafters, you get the distinct, sickening feeling that someone is looking back down from the dark. An invisible eye, monitoring our entire existence. Paranormal investigators experience this exact same crushing atmosphere at infamous U.S. locations like the Witchwalker cabin. It feels like a massive, invisible weight is suddenly dropped onto your shoulders, restricting your breathing. The energy in this ruin has turned incredibly hostile and aggressive, to the point where the camera signals are beginning to glitch and drop. The sudden, freezing drafts cutting through the room sound less like wind and more like raspy whispers. Is this location telling us that this is our absolute last chance to get out? If we don't turn back right now, we might just become another forgotten chapter of this history. The silence in this place is growing denser by the second. The faint light bleeding through the windows has completely died out, leaving nothing but a claustrophobic, heavy blackness. Every decaying wall, every shattered corner, and that creeping shadow on the wall are giving us a final warning. The living do not belong here. Some secrets are better off left buried in the pages of history and left to rot in these abandoned ruins. We are executing our exit now, but the terror we captured on these cameras will haunt us for the rest of our lives. If you truly understand the paranormal, you know that certain attachments don't just stay at the location. They follow you home. The story of these ruins isn't over. In fact, it's just beginning. As we tried to turn back toward the entrance, something shifted. The scratching sound from the wall suddenly stopped, and that creeping entity vanished into a dark, narrow crack beneath the floorboards. It didn't just crawl away. It felt like it deliberately led us to a hidden corner of this ruin that wasn't visible before. Behind a collapsed pile of rotting wood, we discovered a narrow stone staircase leading downward into absolute nothingness. The air coming from below was freezing, carrying the distinct scent of old iron and damp soil. Our flashlights barely pierced the thick, heavy fog that seemed to guard this subterranean passage. Every instinct told us to run, but the heavy pressure in the air made it feel like the house itself was locking us inside, forcing us to go deeper. As we took our first steps down into this hidden chamber, the sound of the wind outside completely died out, replaced by a low, rhythmic, thumping noise that sounded exactly like a slow, heavy heartbeat echoing through the stone walls. The basement of this ruin held secrets that were never meant to see the light of day. Scattered across the dirt floor were remnants of old, decaying documents, handwritten letters from the late 1970s, and broken pieces of glass containers. The writing on the pages was mostly faded, but words like containment, bloodline, and ritual were scratched into the paper with terrifying force. It became painfully clear that this was the exact room where the forbidden ritual took place. The walls down here weren't made of ordinary brick. They were covered in bizarre, dark markings that seemed to absorb the light from our flashlights. In the center of the room, directly beneath the collapsed section of the roof upstairs, stood a heavy, rusted iron table, bolted into the ground. The energy surrounding this object was so intensely volatile that the camera screen began to violently flicker with static, and the audio receiver picked up a low, agonizing frequency that sounded like multiple voices whispering at the exact same time. Suddenly, a loud, violent slam echoed from upstairs, shaking the entire foundation of the structure. The sealed door we had examined earlier had just forcefully shut on its own, locking our only clear exit. Panic set in, as the temperature in the basement dropped so low that our breath turned into thick mist. The low thumping sound in the walls grew faster and louder, vibrating through our boots and directly into our chests. We scrambled back up the stone stairs, our hearts hammering against our ribs, only to find the hallway completely transformed. The dust in the air was swirling in unnatural patterns, and the shattered windows seemed to reflect shadows that weren't actually there. Every corner of this decaying house was now actively rejecting our presence. We realized that name-dropping or researching these dark legends is one thing, but standing face-to-face with an active, malevolent haunting is an entirely different reality that no one can truly prepare for. With our flashlights beginning to dim and fail, we desperately forced our way through a broken side window, tumbling out onto the cold, overgrown ground outside. The moment our feet hit the soil outside the perimeter of the ruin, the suffocating weight lifted from our chests, and the camera feed instantly stabilized. We looked back up at the broken roof and the dark, empty windows of the structure. For a split second, a pale, distorted figure seemed to stand behind the glass of the upper floor, staring down at us with absolute malice before fading back into the shadows. This investigation pushed us to the absolute limit of human terror. This place isn't just abandoned, it is alive, keeping watch over the entities trapped inside its walls, waiting for the next unsuspecting explorers to step through its portal doors. We got out alive this time, but the dark attachment we felt inside that basement might just follow us wherever we go next.